While the golf civil war still rages, Greg Norman, CEO of the LIV Golf International Series, has hit back at the current #1 on the official golf world ranking, Rory McIlroy. Even though Norman is known for his aggressive demeanor and goes by the moniker the Shark, McIlroy must have done something to provoke the attack. So, what did McIlroy say? And what was Greg Norman's reply? Stick around to find out all the details. Welcome to Golf Links, and remember to subscribe to the channel for updates on new video drops. So, while PGA Tour and LIV Golf players have expressed their concerns about the ongoing rift in the game, one golfer, in particular, has always had a lot to say. Rory McIlroy has always criticized LIV CEO Greg Norman whenever he has the opportunity, and Greg Norman had time to hit back at Rory. So what got Greg Norman so worked up that he had to drop a Twitter bomb on Rory McIlroy? In Norman's opinion, LIV will play a significant role in the development of golf. The Australian, who now serves as the face of the Breakaway Series, tweeted this: "You should know Rory McIlroy, a member of the PGA Tour, had already criticized LIV by calling it, quote, dead in the water." So Norman took a jab at him. Greg Norman remarked that LIV Golf had gone from being dead in the water to becoming a crucial component of the game's future in 8 months. #LIV Golf is merely getting started. In addition, Norman predicted that the series will soon exert a major force on the golf world, and the big forces in golf should prioritize the improvement of the sport that they all love. He continued, "At LIV Golf NV will keep doing its part." Despite being a straightforward tweet favoring the LIV Golf series, fans were quick to pick up on the connection. The tweet's apparent jab towards LIV's fierce opponent Rory McIlroy used the phrase "dead in the water" as a metaphor. Announcing their commitment to the PGA Tour in February were Dustin Johnson and Bryson DeChambeau. The golfers officially stated that they would be joining LIV. McIlroy was then asked to comment on the matter. The Irishman attacked the Renegade Series in response to the reporter's query on whether the threat of the Breakaway Series had been deflected. After his final round at the Genesis Invitational in February, Rory McIlroy remarked, "So who's left? Who is still standing? I mean, there isn't anybody. In my perspective, it's dead in the water. I don't see why anyone would go." However, after the remarks, Johnson and DeChambeau abandoned the PGA ship and joined LIV, and things started to go south. The two golfers accepted large cash prizes to participate in the Rebel Series. In playing LIV, they joined a group of well-known individuals like Phil Mickelson and Brooks Koepka. McIlroy was obliged to make critical remarks about the Greg Norman-led circuit due to the golfer's desertion. With his remark about being dead in the water, Norman responded critically to the Irish golfer. However, this is not the first time Greg Norman has called out Rory McIlroy's hypocritical stance. The verbal altercation between Greg Norman and Rory McIlroy over LIV Golf has occurred before. In several instances, both players have made critical remarks about one another. There was an occasion where Norman referred to McIlroy as a hypocrite because of his opinion on the Rebel Series. When Norman referred to McIlroy as a hypocrite, he responded to the Irishman's assertion that Norman was damaging golf. The current #1 was urged to reevaluate his position on LIV by the former #1 in the world. Norman slammed McIlroy, claiming that he was operating in a one-sided manner by accusing other players of joining LIV Golf. "Well, my point is, Rory, you're an independent contractor," Greg Norman remarked in an interview with Piers Morgan on Rory McIlroy's attack on LIV players. "You have the authority to make your own decision. Remember, Rory began his European tour. Then, Rory chose to quit the European Tour to play where all the money is, on the PGA Tour. Don't blame the other players for making a choice. It's a pity that people have adopted this viewpoint. Looking back through time, they've done the same thing." Since then, the two have had several verbal spats, the most recent being Norman's tweet. So have they always been against each other, and when did their feud start exactly? Even while Greg Norman is not a favorite of PGA Tour fans, perhaps none more than world #1 Rory McIlroy, the two had a protracted spat, maybe due to McIlroy's position as one of the players who are now most adamantly opposed to LIV Golf. One message stood out when Rory McIlroy during his interview at the DP World Tour Championship. He said he believed Greg should leave. "I believe he just needs to exit stage left," he said. He was referring to Greg Norman's role as CEO of LIV, and he also said that unless there were an adult in the room, there wouldn't likely be any compromise, while Norman was in charge of LIV Golf. That much was obvious. McIlroy had criticized Norman before, so this was hardly a new attack. After winning the RBC Canadian Open this summer, he said in several interviews that his 21st PGA Tour victory was one more than someone else, a dig at Norman's 20 title total. McIlroy stated at the CG Cup that he hopes to conclude his career with 332 weeks as world number 1, significantly more than Norman, although there are several apparent reasons why PGA Tour players would criticize the commissioner of LIV. There is more to this specific dispute than meets the eye. McIlroy explained its origins in a lengthy conversation with Paul Kimmage in an interview with The Independent. He said that his comments against a hypothetical breakaway league in February of 2020 marked the beginning of the conflict, as Arnold Palmer had done in 1994 when he fought back against Greg Norman's planned World Golf Tour. He claimed he wanted to be on the right side of history. Norman wasn't happy, and we had a very heated exchange. McIlroy said Norman was quite condescending, saying things like, "Maybe one day you'll understand," and other such nonsense. Early in 2022, McIlroy tried to patch things up after viewing the ESPN documentary Shark about Norman's 1996 Masters grief. Norman reached out to McIlroy after his collapse at the 2011 Masters and was very helpful to me, the golfer stated. He messaged Norman after seeing the documentary. He said that he had just finished watching Norman's ESPN documentary. It was great, in his opinion, and it must have been difficult for Norman. Hopefully it will serve as a reminder to everyone of what a fantastic golfer Norman was. Despite the differences, McIlroy wished Norman the best and appreciated Norman for everything he had shared with him in 2011. According to McIlroy, he saw it as an olive branch. Norman reacted with a nice note, and there was a brief respite. That didn't last long. A few weeks later, Norman gave an interview to the Washington Post claiming that Rory had been brainwashed by the PGA Tour. According to McIlroy, he said, "I'm thinking, for sake." That's what he says about me after our extremely good back and forth. However, this proved to be McIlroy's pivotal moment. McIlroy continued saying he would make it his mission, from this point on, to be as big of a pain in Norman's ass as he could. And basically, that is what he's been doing ever since. The current number 1 golfer included Jon Rahm and Tiger Woods in the feud. In that endeavor, he had some strong allies. Jon Rahm defended McIlroy the same week he made his original remarks, saying Greg had to leave. McIlroy couldn't help but take another shot at Norman in the interview. Even though he opposes LIV, Rory added that he thought that the PGA Tour should be glad that Greg Norman has faced this up, and he believes that LIV could have made more advances if they had picked someone less divisive. Norman ignored their remarks. He told Today's Golfer, "You know, I don't give a damn about McIlroy and Woods. For whatever reason, they have an agenda, and they can say anything they want. It doesn't matter to me or has any impact. I intend to be with LIV for a very, very long time." He stated that he had no intention of giving up his position as LIV's leader. "I have no plans to leave. What anyone says doesn't matter to me." He declared that he was not leaving, and he was so proud of the position he was in, and perhaps it was his leadership that was making them nervous. Maybe. It seems unlikely that this conflict will end anytime soon. The leaders of 2 rival golf circuits might be engaged in a lifelong conflict. However, Norman believes otherwise. Regardless of what Woods and McIlroy think, Norman feels he can be the one to restore the relationship. "Of course, under my guidance, that can happen," Norman told Today's Golfer. "I mean, Tiger might be a messenger. Nobody knows." He continued by saying that all he knows is that he will keep doing what he has been doing with the LIV and keep pushing ahead. Norman said that no one has ever told him what he's doing is foolish or bad, no matter where he travels. So, is Norman doing a good job with LIV Golf?